So we're shooting this directly after the hand-cranked solar-powered emergency weather radio comparison of the weather radio from, I'd say, roughly 2010, and then the one from roughly 2020. And the one from 2020 came with the E-Ready additional items to consider adding to an emergency supply kit, FEMA recommended emergency checklist. And I actually tested myself on this because I wouldn't necessarily call myself a prepper, but I like to think of myself as prepared. I'm like a farm kid. I'm into like being prepared and like stocking up on things and making sure that I'm, prepared for any situation. It's part of feeling like you're, it's part of having like peace of mind, I would say. And so I went through this checklist with quite a bit of interest here, and I'm going to go through it with you. I'm going to try to go through it fairly quick. First thing is a dust mask to help filter contaminated air and plastic sheeting, and duct tape to shelter in place. Well, I definitely have the duct tape. And a face mask, I think that after this last couple of years, pretty much everyone has a face mask, so that one's kind of a given. Moist towelettes, garbage bags, and plastic ties for personal sanitation. Well, I do have moist towelettes. I get them pretty much every time I go to KFC, or at least I used to when their dining room was open. I'd get like a handful of honey packets, a handful of butter packets, and a handful of moist towelettes. Huh. And I have pretty much a whole drum of them at home, so I'm pretty well covered on moist towelettes. And garbage bags, I actually use empty cat food bags as garbage bags. They make very good garbage bags because they're heavy and they're basically watertight and a lot heavier than typical like hefty garbage bags. And then the plastic ties for personal sanitation. I don't really need those because I burn most of my garbage. So
are those zip ties or what are they?
They're like the twist. I think they're talking about like twisty ties that you put on garbage. But since I plan to burn most of my garbage, that won't be an issue for me. I'll probably just use the empty cat food bags to store the garbage, and then when the bag gets full, or just whenever I get the closest opportunity, I'll just burn it. Especially since I have no shortage of those cat food bags because my mom goes through a lot of cat food, and she gives me all those empty bags, and they come in handy for a lot of different things. So I kind of repurpose those, and that's one skill that you really have to have is repurposing. It's something that really comes in handy. And then a wrench or pliers to turn off utilities, can opener for food if a kit contains canned food, prescription medications, and glasses. That's pretty much all covered. Wrench or pliers, I have those in a toolbox. Can opener, I have in my Swiss Champ Army knife. I actually have a few different Swiss Army knives. They all have can openers, and then some of them actually have a wrench and a pliers too, so that's covered. Infant formula and diapers, that's not relevant, but I still gave myself a check because not having babies means that you're prepared.
Well, you can always pick up an extra set of Depends too, so in case you ever need them.
Yeah. Pet food and extra water for your pet. I have about 15 or so gallons of water in jugs, and then I have about a year's worth of cat food. My cat does not go through cat food very quickly, so I have probably about a year's worth of cat food for her. Important family documents such as copies of insurance policies, identification, and bank account records in a waterproof portable container. I have all those documents on hand, and I do have what would be a waterproof container. I would just have to put them in the container. They're not in a waterproof container at this point, but they could easily be put into one. Cash or traveler's checks and change. Yes, I prefer cash over credit cards. I do use credit cards occasionally, but I prefer cash, so I've got that. Emergency reference materials such as first aid book or information from ready.gov. I actually have some vintage military survival books at home, like from like the 1970s and 80s. And some of that info might be considered outdated, but really that stuff really doesn't I don't think that stuff ever really goes out of date.
Yeah.
Like survival info like that, like how to make a lean-to and stuff like that. That kind of stuff never really goes out of date. So, yeah, I have those like really heavy-duty, down to business survival, military survival guides. So, pretty good on that. And then I also have some books on like outdoor lore and stuff like that. That like what plants are edible, what plants aren't, and that kind of stuff for like foraging and stuff. Sleeping bag or warm blanket for each person. Consider additional bedding if you live in a cold weather climate. We definitely live in a colder weather climate. I've got plenty of blankets. I don't have a sleeping bag, but I have plenty of blankets.
Would you get a sleeping bag?
I would. It's something I'd be open to. Complete change of clothing, including a long sleeve shirt, long pants, and sturdy shoes. I like to wear boots, so that's covered. Consider additional clothing if you live in a cold weather climate. Got lots of clothes. Household chlorine, bleach, and medicine dropper. That's for like purifying water.
Huh.
And I do have bleach. You want to make sure to get the bleach that's not treated with like lavender or like any kind of scent to it or anything. Just like plain old bleach. Fire extinguisher. I gave myself a half check mark for that, just a dash, because I have all that water and I basically use that as a fire extinguisher. I don't have like an actual in a what would you call it? Like a tank.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those. But
I have about 3 of them.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, part of it's the code with having a rental place. And then there's also, to me they're like $10 or something. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You know?
I'll have to look into that. I didn't know that they were that
They're
affordable.
like $10. I'm just like, yeah, you could throw one in your car, you could throw one, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Portable and small. I mean, and I'd replace them every couple of years because you'd rather, just good to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I told you in the old house, the house I grew up in, we had those really old style fire extinguishers that were like a glass ball that you would throw on the ground, and it would put up this smoke that was supposed to put out the fire, this like powdery stuff that would get everywhere. Probably incredibly carcinogenic. But yeah, and then matches in a waterproof container. I actually have better than that. I have several lighters. Whenever I see a lighter on the ground, I pick it up and test it, and if it lights up, I keep it. And so I have like a dozen lighters at home, and some matches as well. Feminine supplies and personal hygiene items. Well, I'm not a chick, but I do have personal hygiene items, so I gave myself a check mark for that. Mess kits, paper cups, plates and plastic utensils, paper towels. That's pretty much all I ever use. I do have like a set of dishes, but I almost always use like paper cups and plates and silverware. So
What about styrofoam?
it's bad for the environment, man. Do you know how long it takes for those to decompose? Like those will be around 1 billion years from now, man. But
It would provoke a response from you.
yeah.
So.
Paper and pencil, got that. Got a lot of pens. I have probably like a lifetime supply of pens at home, and paper as well. Books, games, puzzles, and other activities for children. Why just for children? You need those for adults too. Adults are going to lose their damn minds if they don't have something to occupy their time. So yeah, I have plenty of that kind of stuff. We're almost done. We're in the home stretch. Water, 1 gallon of water per person per day for at least 3 days for drinking and sanitation. I think I've got that covered. Food, at least a 3-day supply. That I didn't give myself a check mark for, but I probably could now because I went to the store and I got like a pallet of SpaghettiOs.
Huh.
Canned SpaghettiOs. I consider those good survival food because they're in cans, so they'll last a long time.
Yeah.
They're high calorie, they're high carb, which means a lot of energy, but they also have protein because I got the kind with meatballs. So those are really good survival food. You could probably survive on 3 cans a day.
Spaghetti-O.
Yeah, exactly. Except they're like off-brand, so they're like ding ding spaghetti rings.
Okay. Okay, where'd you get them at? Walmart or?
Yeah, great value.
Ding ding spaghetti
Ding
rings.
ding ding spaghetti rings.
Wow, it's a great marketing slogan.
Yeah. And then this one's the one that comes with the radio, battery powered or hand crank radio with NOAA weather radio and tone alert and extra batteries. So that one is like your free space basically. That's the one you can check off just for buying this
Did
thing.
it already have it checked?
No,
Oh.
no, but I checked it. Flashlight with Signal Strobe. Again, that's another one that it's just a given because it comes with the weather radio has that. First aid kit, whistle to signal for help. I have like this orange emergency whistle in my van. People used to give me a hard time and called it a grape whistle, but that's what that's for. That's like if you crash into a snowbank and nobody can see you because you're like behind the snowbank, you got to blow that whistle like your life depends on it because it probably will. So yeah, I do have an emergency whistle. A cell phone with portable battery charger. I've got that. That's actually included in the radio too because it has the micro USB, or not the micro USB, the macro USB so that you can plug in and charge your phone from this radio. So that's cool. And then family radio service or general mobile radio service. I gave myself half a mark for that because I do have those CB radios.
Yeah.
But I only one is mobile. The other ones are dependent on AC electricity. So I give myself half a check mark for that.
And the GMS and the CB and those are much different. CB is pretty much out of it. FMS radio or the family one, that one you don't need a license. You actually need a license for GMS.
Yeah.
A little less than ham, but so I don't know. I mean, they're nice to have if you're in a gang or a group of people or family or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, I would be satisfied with just CB, but I need to get another one that's like a mobile one instead of just a base one, because I have the one that's like the newer one that's mobile and it's digital and stuff, and then I have two other ones that are dependent on an AC plug-in, so I have to complete that one. So I gave myself half a check mark on that one.
Huh.
Local maps to avoid getting lost. And that's a check mark too, because I have maps. Maybe not the best maps, but I know the area pretty well. But yeah, I have maps, and I can always get more too if I have to. So I gave myself 23.5 out of 26, which is 90.38% or an A-. And like I said, I could probably check off that food one, which would give me a slightly higher score, but I figured I would just score myself based on how prepared I was about a week ago. And so it was an A- at the time. At this point, it would be a 24.5, which would be an A, but I just figured I'd share that. And I want to hear from everybody, all of you, if any of you did this with me, because one thing I forgot to mention is that this is basically a challenge. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, that I wanted everyone to do this with me and I wanted to hear your scores. So I'll just say that now. I want to hear from you. What score did you get on this emergency checklist? Let me know in the comments. And if you like these kind of videos and are into the type of stuff I do, subscribe to my channel, Captain Unusual. And thanks for watching, and I hope that you're as prepared as I am, and we'll catch you in the next video.